What's the scariest thing you found on the dark web? I remember a long time ago there was a guy online who was trying to buy massive quantities of bed bugs. When someone asked him why, he replied that he wanted to breed them in a way that made them resistant to all known extermination methods. Except for one weak spot that only he would know. That way, he could release them into people's homes and force them to pay him for extermination, since no one else would be able to get rid of them. As for me, I once found my own password. I came across a channel with a link to a site where if you typed in an email address, it would show the password in plain text. If that email had been previously hacked. I typed in one of my old, no longer used email addresses, and a white page popped up showing the password, publicly visible to anyone. A friend of mine claimed that he was lurking on some black market and hacker forums, and someone sent him a private message saying something like, "I've been watching you. You come here a lot, but I know you're not here to buy or use services. You're just a kid." That doesn't bother me, but it bothers others. You're not protected well enough to hang around here. Leave, if you value your life. During my visits to the dark web, I mostly explored sections related to hacking and cybersecurity. It was fascinating to see how people approach hacking different things, and it was honestly an educational experience. Still, the scariest thing I saw was an ad by a guy offering a service where he'd plant child porn on someone's computer and then report them to the police, as a way of getting rid of them. That wasn't just horrifying. It was a chilling realization of how dangerous this space can be. From what I saw on a forum discussing system security, there were at least 2 people who had supposedly used his service. After that, I stuck to more normal forums. One night, just wandering randomly through Tor, I stumbled upon a website with a riddle and a text field to enter an answer. Solving it would redirect you to another page with an encrypted message and another input field. Each page was like a puzzle, getting progressively harder. I was 15 at the time and not very smart with this kind of stuff, so I found a forum where others were talking about the same site. I think it was a kind of entertainment for elite coders and decoders, although some speculated it might be a hacker recruitment campaign, similar to Cicada 3301. Either way, it really creeped me out. I don't know if it was a scam, but there was a service where you'd pay $5,000 in Bitcoin up front, and they'd take care of a target for you, with the rest paid after the job was done. Terrifying stuff, and once I was at a local dealer's house taking photos of drugs for him for the old Silk Road. He was testing some new links and suddenly said, "Oh my God, look at this." It was a site where a man from the US described his sexual abuse of animals in detail, including photos. Scroll down a bit and you'd see that he didn't stop at animals, he moved on to humans. I quickly stepped away from the computer. One weekend, curiosity got the better of me, and I wanted to explore what was being hidden. Turns out the dark web has both fascinating and deeply disturbing stuff, though most of it is just garbage. I didn't really want to be part of it. I stumbled across sites selling drugs, guns, counterfeit money, and more. There was also a paid hitman who only accepted crypto and targeted only adults. I don't know how much he charged, but according to his claims, completing a job safely could take months. Interestingly, he said he preferred not to be called a killer of people, though that made no sense. He did mention that he could take care of a child too, if you had a good enough reason and paid extra for the parents. The point was clear. I don't want to do this, but if I must, it'll cost you a fortune. Besides hitmen, I also found sites where you could buy or exchange credit cards, even fake ones. I was particularly curious about how it worked. Apparently, you just needed to spoof your identity or use a VPN to buy or clone prepaid cards using stolen card info, then resell them for around 60% of their value. Of course, there was plenty of porn too. Some extremely disturbing stuff, not easy to stumble upon accidentally since the direct links are usually deeply hidden. I never searched for it, but it's not hard to figure out where it might be if you're interested. There was also something called the Dog Vault, where users exchanged nude photos of celebrities. The listing was weird. Things like, "I need pics of this person, I have pics of that celebrity, willing to trade." I also have to mention a guy who, if you just told him what you needed, would go steal it from a store and sell it to you for half the price. Quite the business model, I must say. And of course, human trafficking. I never went into those sites, but I found a link to one. I instantly knew it wasn't something I wanted to see and didn't even click. If you're not a depraved person, the dark web is mostly a waste of time. Still, it can serve educational purposes by offering a glimpse into the darkest corners of society. One of my friends dug deep and found a video where someone literally skinned a person's face and wore it as a mask. That kind of stuff makes me physically sick. I don't know how smart it was to wander randomly like that, but I came across a discussion on how to hide the fact that you have AIDS so you could infect others without their knowledge. I think that was in 2012 or around the peak of Silk Road. That same friend told me he ordered MDMA from Silk Road and got it by mail. I asked him to show me how to use Tor, and we spent most of the afternoon marveling at all the stuff you could buy on the dark web. Eventually, we came across someone who was selling children. Yes, children. The offer was that you could specify what kind of child you wanted, and depending on how hard it was to get one, the price was about $5,000. There were also photos, mostly naked kids in dirty, rundown rooms. We turned off the computer and didn't go near it again for several days. To this day, I regret not calling the police. But we were dumb kids, scared that we'd get in trouble for my friend's drug activities. Back on the old Silk Road, someone was selling potassium cyanide in 5-gram bags. I doubt that was meant for anything good. I also stumbled on a forum full of messed up people, and I mean mentally. There were users with suicidal tendencies being convinced that nothing matters and being given all kinds of ways to end it all. There was even a section on seducing family members, basically incest advice. I remember one guy posting about having feelings for his biological sister. He tried many times, but she called him a freak and rejected him. He later committed suicide because he couldn't bear it. That thread stuck with me. I couldn't find it again afterward. There were news stories later on that matched the scenario. A man killing his sister, then himself. He even mentioned an older brother living abroad, which was also in the news. I really don't think it was a coincidence. That's when the horror really hit me.